So you want to make a butterfly garden? Well, you're in the right spot because I'm going to show you how I took this from no garden to a butterfly garden. From plant choice to location to all the tips you need to make your butterfly garden. Okay, let's go. One of my favorite parts about starting a new garden is going shopping. And I'm here at Wilcox where they have both exotic and native plants, but they really have a great native selection. So this would be awesome for the butterfly garden. Let's go in. So as I'm at the store looking to figure out what we're going to put in our butterfly garden, there's a few different things that I continue to look at. So like I mentioned, we want to look for different colors, different flower shapes, and of course we got to make sure we have a host plant in there. So when I was looking at host plants, we're in the deep of winter, so I don't have a ton of options, though it still doesn't mean that I can't get some. Now, in this area, there are a lot of wonderful host plants that are trees and shrubs, but the area we're working with, we already have a centerpiece tree and not a lot of space for a shrubbing plant. So what we're gonna wanna do is look for something smaller. And what I'm gonna be using is twin flower for gonna be my host plant. This is a host plant for the common buckeye, very pretty ground cover, which will help fill in the space. But I'm gonna pair this with a lot of different other colors and shapes. So this is gonna of course be in the purple range. And you can already see that we have some other ones in the purple range with our beach verbena, we have blue sage, we've got some Leavenworth coreopsis, which will be yellow. We're gonna have some blanket flower, which will have yellows and reds. And then when it comes to the shapes, right, we talked about we wanna have things that are gonna be high nectar sources, like the sage, right? It's got that trumpet. We've got the cup shape right here with our beach verbena. And then of course we're gonna have some nice open faces with our Leavenworth coreopsis and our blanket flower. They're gonna have more of a daisy shape once they do go into bloom, which I wish they were right now, but they will be come a few weeks. And then the twin flower again is gonna have a cupping shaped nectar. And this is gonna create a nice mix to attract different butterflies, different moths into the area, creating a beautiful look, and it's gonna create a lot of different variety even for us to go and look at. These plants are for different projects, so don't worry about those. But what I'd like to show you on this one plant is there is another type of shape that we don't really talk about a lot. You have this daisy shape, but then there's also these kind of like tassel flower shapes, which bees and butterflies do really, really enjoy. So this is another shape which isn't as commonly talked about, but it's really, really nice for a lot of different butterflies. And this one right here is beach mist flower. I'm putting it in another area of my yard where I took out some invasive species, and I'm gonna be using that to fill in. Another thing that you can look at is this is another flowering plant. It is a blue-eyed grass. And again, I know I'm really loving the blues and purples right now, but blue-eyed grass, it looks like a grass, it's actually an iris, but you can get a different look. So you can see you can get lots of different shapes and sizes, mix them together, and have a great place for butterflies. So one other thing I wanted to point out before I go and install this is where I put this. So this is actually on the south face of my house, so we're gonna get southern light. And as we get into the more summer heat, these are gonna get more and more sun throughout the year. And I'm putting them below a tree that also pollinators will like, which is, this is a Grand Ponciana, also known as a flamboyant tree. It is not native to Florida, but it is something that the pollinators will love and will be enjoyed by that. So I like to intermix some of my natives with exotics, but The idea is to get as many natives in as you can, because those will be the absolute best, right? This is where you're gonna find the most synergy between your butterflies and your plants. Oh. So you may be noticing I'm putting a lot of plants into a very small space. We know these plants are gonna fill out. I know that they're gonna start to crowd each other, but that's okay. That's also gonna create a nice diverse mix. It's okay that some of them you might lose along the way. I'm okay with that, because what it's also gonna do is once I fill in this area, I'm gonna be able to push weeds out, which is great, because one of the things you don't wanna be doing in a butterfly garden, and one of the biggest mistakes people make, outside not having host plants and the right type of flowers, is adding pesticides. Pesticides to keep weeds out, pesticides to keep bugs out. They will hurt your butterflies and caterpillars too. So when you add things like that, no good. So one of the best ways to keep weeds out is not to ever let them grow. And you do that by crowding in plants that you want there. So I will be adding lots of butterfly garden plants here, and then I'll be adding a mulch. I actually bought pine straw, which pine is great for here in Florida, and adding that on top. So let's go and put them in. So you guys can see what I'm saying. Here we've got some weeds growing in between the sunshine mimosa. So having a ground cover that's gonna help fill this in. And there's two plants acting as a ground cover, blanket flower and the twin flower. So between these two plants, we will get a lot of denser ground cover. So I am putting this twin flower right at the edge of this bed because, one, there were some bigger plants in the back, which was the invasive lantana that I took out, that I want to kind of start to make this bed a little bit more symmetric now that I have more symmetric plantings. The other thing is that you can see I'm trying to leave my sunshine mimosa. It'll probably wander and creep between these, but I know that these plants are all going to start coming this way towards the sun, because this is the southern side, which southern sides of yards, full sun southern sides, are much more ideal for a flower perspective for butterfly gardens. Now there are plants that are in the shadier range that can support a butterfly garden. It's just you're gonna find less things that you can use, but that's okay, because sometimes we have shady yards. So you just gotta figure out what works for you. Invasive dayflower. So we're now moving into the edge of my vegetable garden, which is right here. So if you're looking for ideas on things that can be good for puddling, well, here you go. Here is a rock in my sweet potato garden. You can see it's got a lot of cracks and crevices and little plants. But when it rains, yep, you get little teensy tiny puddles, and this is something that a butterfly male would love to use for puddling. Another thing is this frog right here. Actually, it's pretty hidden now, but it's got a low-lying dish. It only holds a teeny amount of water. You can see there's a slip right here, and then it all comes out the side. This is another thing that we can use for puddling. Even things like this. They have just low, shallow places where, I don't know if you can tell, but this actually goes in just a little bit. This can help allow us to accumulate water for just a little bit of period of time. And even things like I've seen them go and hang out on places like this, like little cement or pavers. So these are different things you can just think about. This is beach verbena, which is a really pretty plant. Take a look at these flowers while I go and dig the hole. So you're probably noticing the tool I'm using. This is called a mattock. I know it's not traditionally what people use. and a butterfly garden for digging holes. A lot of people are probably used to using shovels. I just find that this gets through a lot more material issues, like whether you have roots or you've got some compacted soil. Just this tool, it's awesome. It's very flexible. So I like using this over shovels. Even though I do have shovels, I just tend not to use them as much. And you can pick up a good mattock from like a Home Depot or a Lowe's. You could probably order one online. So you see, the sunshine mimosa, it's a big vining plant when it trails all over the place. I guess trailing plant. And you'll notice a lot of my plants that I picked up are root bound, so there's a lot of root growth. So you just want to separate that out gently. And this is just to help make sure that the roots don't keep growing in a circle and they can reach out. You just gently kind of pull them away. For ladies, you're used to doing a similar thing. If you have tangled hair, you kind of just work your fingers a little bit between it. You don't have to go crazy and get it perfect. Oh, I got soil all over my twin flower. But you just want to get it enough so that some of the roots can start going in some other directions. And you'll notice with a lot of the plants, as I put them in, I just try to pull everything up before I put the soil back down so that I don't have a bunch of leaves rotting in the ground, making the plant stressed and sick. So now you know how to make a butterfly garden, and you need some plant ideas. Host plant ideas to be exact, and that's what's going to be up next. So to make sure you don't miss it, go ahead and like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. New videos each week on Friday and sometimes a bonus on Sunday. And while you wait for the next video, go ahead and check out this, and YouTube thinks you'll like this. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye.